Hi everyone, my name is Josh Kunkun, and I am very grateful to be here today. I want to start by inviting you into my mind at school. The mind of a young, rambunctious boy with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. Oh, what's that sticky thing on the roof? Hey, Noah has a really cool pencil. Oh, he is definitely gaming. I wonder what's for dinner tonight. Oh, I hope it's pasta. I love pasta. Are we still talking about Shakespeare? Oh, I really want to go outside and play basketball with all my friends. That would be so much fun. Josh, can you please answer the question? Huh? Sorry, Miss Warner. Can you please repeat the question? Why did Caesar say, "Et tu, Brutus," in Shakespeare's play, Julius Caesar? Miss Warner, I believe Caesar said this because he was so shocked to see his best friend Brutus betraying him. Wow, Josh, I'm surprised you got that right. You seem so distracted. Of course I'm distracted, Miss Warner. I have ADHD. Today I would like to speak about my Brutus, my best friend that sometimes betrays me, my ADHD. First, by telling you my own personal story, I'll tell you the benefits and drawbacks of having ADHD. Second, I will outline how ADHD affects millions of people and why our current education system is failing them, leading to a heavy loss of societal capital. Lastly, I will propose a solution on how ADHD can be better integrated into the educational system to prevent this loss of talent. ADHD is like a best friend because it gives me endless energy. I can be dead tired after basketball and then bounce back after 15 minutes. I can come up with ideas quite quickly and think on the spot. Sometimes too many ideas all at once. My friends might say I can pull stuff literally out of my, hat. I generally don't get stressed about things because nothing really stays in my mind too long and I just move on. For example, the thought may cross my mind that I have an exam the next day, but then that thought is gone before I even have the chance to start worrying. I may lose my phone, but I get distracted even looking for it. However, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. Let me explain how my ADHD, my Brutus, also betrays me. Since I can be so distracted, I often don't register little things such as where I put my shirt, my laptop, my soccer cleats, my basketball shoes, my homework, you get the point. It's not fun constantly misplacing, finding, and then losing many of my things. It's also really hard for me to focus and get work done, and since I'm always thinking of something else, I often make mistakes in exams. My brain has a tough time planning ahead, and long-term projects like book reports can end up being complete last-minute disasters. Teachers sometimes think I'm not interested in their lessons, even though I might really enjoy the topic. All of this affects my grades, but I know I'm much smarter than my grades show. The worst part is, people can sometimes find me loud, uninterested, annoying, frustrating. This can affect my relationships with my friends, teachers, and parents, which in turn affects how I think of myself, my self-esteem, my identity. All of these are the benefits and drawbacks of ADHD and why it is my Brutus, my best friend that can betray me. This is the dilemma of ADHD and it can be hard. However, I know I'm not alone. ADHD impacts millions of children and adults. Up to 10% of children and teens have ADHD and about 4% of adults. That means on average, every classroom of 30 students has 1 to 3 children with ADHD. ADHD affects the frontal lobes of the brain, as well as other areas, and results in difficulty with attention. Some people may also have increased levels of hyperactivity and impulsivity. As I said, this isn't always a bad thing, and many people with ADHD do very well in life. One of the most inspirational figures in my life is my 87-year-old grandfather who has ADHD. On one hand, my grandfather is so disorganized, impulsive, scatterbrained, and on the other, he is so intelligent, a math genius, reads and writes 5 languages, and constantly found innovative ways to overcome major hardships in his life to pursue his passion of becoming a math teacher. Another example is of a boy who hated school and performed poorly, so he constantly got into trouble and left school when he was 15 to start his own company. He had a lot of great ideas, tons of energy, and people were drawn to him. This led him to become a huge entrepreneur, building a major record label called Virgin Records, owning a large airline fleet, sending tourists into space, and inventing an underwater plane. Richard Branson is living proof of the benefits and drawbacks of having ADHD, and how it sometimes does not fit well within the traditional educational system. Often the rule-oriented structured school system doesn't work, but the ever-changing real world does. People with ADHD are often disruptors. They have the ideas, energy, and risk-taking nature to tear down old paradigms and create something new and valuable. Did you know that people with ADHD are 300% more likely to start their own companies? Many are top athletes, musicians, artists, writers, and scientists of the world have ADHD. You see, people with ADHD don't have a deficit in focus for all things, only things they find boring or tedious. People with ADHD have hyper-focus for things they love, their passions, whether it's business like Richard Branson, math like my grandfather, and me for sports. This is why we have the potential to be innovators. When we are supported, we ADHDers can be leaders. Unfortunately, it is not always a happy ending for those with ADHD. Many don't end up reaching their potential because of their symptoms of impulsivity or learning issues. About 20% of teens with ADHD skip school repeatedly. A third fail or repeat a year. A staggering 30 to 40% of people with ADHD will eventually drop out of school. Those who leave high school are more likely to be unemployed, unhealthy, be a victim of crime, go to prison, or become homeless. This is a massive loss and burden to individuals' families, the education system, the judicial system, and society in general. Something needs to be done about this. This brings me to my theme of purpose. At the age of 14, I can't really say I know my true life's purpose other than to leave this world a better place than I came. For me, right now, that means speaking up about ADHD, reducing the stigma and shame associated with it, and advocating for change. This gives me purpose at this time in my life, and in fact, in this very moment. The biggest problem with ADHD is the lack of support for students who need to get through a school system that is not necessarily a good fit for them. I believe that ADHD should be categorized as a learning disorder and not solely as a behavioral disorder to allow students to qualify for an independent educational plan or an IEP. This would allow medically diagnosed students to legitimately obtain an IEP and receive learning accommodations. For example, those of us with ADHD often learn better with noise-canceling headphones, sitting closer to the instructor, and sometimes in a quiet, separate setting on tests or assignments. It may sound really weird, but I consider myself lucky to have the additional learning differences of dysgraphia, very messy writing, and written output disorder, because this has helped me obtain an IEP and accommodations that I would not have received with just the diagnosis of ADHD. I believe this would completely change the lives of children with ADHD. Millions of students across the world. That is a lot of potentials that can be unleashed by a small change in a simple definition. It allows us to recognize and respect differences and remember that all minds are brilliant and deserve a chance for success. Where there is a deficit, there are also strengths and exceptional functions. ADHD is a part of natural neurodiversity, meaning that all of our brains are different, and it is our differences that make us unique. Instead of the frustration of trying to put a square peg, the ADHD student, into a round hole, the traditional classroom, let's accommodate our natural differences and appreciate that we all have our own unique neural fingerprint. We must remember, where there is a deficit, there can be a gift. We must help students see their ADHD as less of the enemy Brutus and as more of the best friend Brutus. This is who we are as a wonderfully diverse human species. Nature needs neurodiversity. We need to think and approach problems differently from each other. Not just to survive, but to thrive, surpass barriers, innovate, and flourish. Thank you.